On today's wrestling news, is Triple H desperate to save WWE?
Kevin Dunn and Bruce Prichard in danger?
Got an update on concerns over Triple H's health.
And a WWE star rejoins the faction on Friday Night SmackDown.
Are you ready? Are you ready for the news time? My name is Phil Chambers and I'm joined by Gareth Morgan and Salty Sea Dog to talk all things wrestling news. But before we get into it, make sure you like the video, comment down below what you think of all of today's stories, subscribe to the channel, and each story is in the description below. Click the timestamps and off you go. But first up, Triple H has spoken publicly for the first time since he took over loads of things, since he took over creative at WWE, and he's now the executive vice president of talent relations, obviously. So he's been speaking out at these WWE tryouts that they've been having at SummerSlam, over the SummerSlam weekend. So we've got a lot from this, so we'll cover it all. So he was first asked just pretty generally about how creative is going to be different under him. Obviously, it's a big change. His first thing he said was just that you're going to have to watch the show. So, you know, we're going to have to tune in and find out, I guess. But he went on to say that there is like a massive pair of shoes that he needs to fill, that he's trying in some way to step into, but I do not dream for 1 second that I can fill those shoes by myself. It's going to take a lot of us. It's going to take a team. It's going to take everybody here to fill those shoes and continue this on, but we will. He speaks about big shoes quite a lot in this, I will say. But he kind of continues on to say how he wants to continue the legacy of kind of what made him fall in love with this business in the first place. He also dropped lots of hints about wanting to take it to new levels beyond where it is now. He was also asked directly about Paul Heyman. Obviously, he has quite a lot of history in creative, and about how he was he was at the tryouts there as well, and whether there's bigger plans for him going forwards. And Triple H just went into things saying he basically wants ideas from absolutely everybody, and that's kind of all-encompassing. It includes talent, it includes like everyone. He goes on to say that Paul is obviously one of the best promos in the business, like who's better? And he's like who's better than Paul Heyman to come there and like motivate these kids and get them going for the tryouts kind of thing. So he realizes there's something there with Paul Heyman, but he didn't say anything specifically about what that role might be or whether they're going to be using him in creative, but was like very obvious to say that he wants ideas from absolutely everybody. It's not going to be a kind of one-man show anymore, was seemingly his biggest point that he was trying to put forward about this. But as he was talking about that sort of team environment and how everyone's going to have to pull together, he dropped quite an interesting and maybe slightly controversial name to some people, didn't he?
Well, he did, because he was obviously talking about still working alongside his wife. He's working alongside Paul Heyman, but specifically working alongside Kevin Dunn as well. And he's been a name that a lot of people have perhaps been angling to see be booted out of WWE, for want of a better phrase, for quite some time because of his terrible camera cuts and just all-around production values not being great. And there was also a really interesting clip of Triple H, I think it was on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast from a couple of years ago, where he just completely dunked on him. I think he was trying to send them off the air early, and Triple H was like, Kevin Dunn, stop what you're doing, we're going to have an extra 10 minutes. And everyone was just like, what? And he doesn't give a 0F about Kevin Dunn from the sounds of it. But more recently, Dave Meltzer obviously releases his latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and within that there were loads of nuggets of goodness, and one specific line that's jumped out to a lot of people when it pertains to just the landscape right now of WWE and what could change going forward with Triple H now in the driving seat was, well, I'll just read it off. It said, the two names most talked about in WWE as being replaced were Prichard and Kevin Dunn, the head of television production. Speculation on their future has run rampant in recent days. So very interesting that Triple H came out and mentioned him, fully name dropped him in those tryout conversation media scrum things. It didn't really, I don't know if he properly name dropped Prichard in that as well. It's one of those, I think, right now, because
I don't think he did.
It's strange, isn't it? Because I think he's obviously got Dunn is one of these kind of pivotal players that you know about. He's the guy in real control, let's say, of the media truck when it comes to just setting out WWE production. So you can't really just ignore him, I guess. But I wouldn't say his future is certain at this point. It's just another development that we're going to have to keep our eyes on when it comes to the WWE landscape at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to wait and see on that side. There were definite rumours out there that Triple H isn't a huge fan of Kevin Dunn, really, and his work. So we'll have to wait and see. And there's obviously the other stories coming out about Kevin Dunn, like saying that like Becky Lynch wasn't pretty enough to be the champion kind of thing.
Did he full on like
views on women?
Yeah, he nixed storylines just for people not being sexy. Like I think I heard Freddie Prinze Jr. Did he come out and say that recently?
Yeah. Freddie Prinze Jr. did. So
not
it's
great.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Kevin Dunn. We're gonna have to wait and see. He's again, like Triple H has been saying, very big shoes to fill. He's another one that's kind of quite big shoes to fill because of how, like, on top of the production of WWE, he's been for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
he is fully entrenched in the WWE system, so he's going to be an interesting one if they are making moves to get rid of him or not. But it is also very interesting that Triple H specifically chose to name drop him in the list of the team that he was talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
But Triple H also went on to address some health concerns that are obviously there about him. Now, there was another little snippet in the Wrestling Observer. Dave Meltzer obviously saying that there are obvious questions regarding Levesque, given he's not far removed from significant heart issues. While he has recovered to where he can lead a normal life, running both talent relations and creative, and doing 5 hours of weekly television most weeks and 8 or more hours on pay-per-view weeks is hardly living a normal life. It is filled with incredible stress, not to mention he would be back traveling for multiple shows per week. Now, obviously, that's a little bit of speculation there with Dave Meltzer, and also a little bit of just kind of rumors surrounding Triple H's health in general, which are probably fair considering what happened to him just like a year ago. But Triple H came out and fully addressed that in this talks as well. He's just said that he feels great. He said that it was a glitch in the road, but luckily for him, it was caught. It took a little bit to get past it, to get over it, but he's past it and he's over it. He's got a clean bill of health, he's 100%, and he's very aware of it all. He's aware of what really is important in your life. He also goes on to say that he has a kind of new appreciation for life and how precious it all is. And he said that he's also not sad that he's done with actual wrestling, like in-ring wrestling. He said he rode it until the wheels came off, and that was his goal. He just wanted to keep on going until he couldn't do it anymore, and he's been told that he cannot do it anymore. He still has the passion for the business, and he ended this whole speech, this whole section, just by saying that he will do everything he can to make it better than it has ever been before. So, fully stressing that he's got big shoes to fill, but also at the same time promising quite big things going forwards from Triple H.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this. I think the most refreshing part of it was his approach just to this, like a job that's, he's already said, it's near impossible to do on your own and just step into the shoes on your own and doing the way that Vince did for so many years. I think he's really shone a light on the importance of just looking after yourself. I think he stressed about the scrum. He was saying sleep isn't the enemy. Just have a bit of a nap every now and again. Just keep your energy up. He's discovered
this new thing called sleep, and it's great.
It's one of them.
Who knew?
He needs to, like, obviously keep. It's easier said than done in the early stages. Like, I'll just sleep as much as I want, and then things start piling up, and hopefully that doesn't lead to him then starting to spiral and everything else. And hopefully he does really implement those words that he's saying about bringing more people on board, sharing the load out. You've got a lot of talented people there behind the scenes. If they choose to use them and choose to, like, maybe if he has final say, that's great, but not being in complete control of every single show and needing to be at every single taping, things like that. He needs to probably go forward and think of a new way of approaching that, because it's not great for anybody really. It's less than a man who's just recovered from heart problems from months ago, not even like a year ago. Like literally a couple of months back, he was on death's door. That's not like, there's no like tiptoeing around that. He was in a really bad spot. Yeah. So hopefully, I don't know, I'm optimistic. I think the way that he approached this, he seemed like he had a weight off his shoulders. He was very like relaxed in his delivery of everything. It didn't seem like he had somebody in his ear going, oh, don't say this, don't say that. He's in full control. He's very much the captain of this ship now. So I'm intrigued to see what changes are going to be made going forward, because I think one of the biggest ones that we've seen straight away that happened on SmackDown, I think SmackDown in general, if you watched this show last night, it felt creatively, I think it felt quite different to Raw, personally. I think it was the first proper show that Triple H had all of his fingerprints all over. It felt that there were a bit more freedom with some of the characters. I think the Drew McIntyre-Sheamus match was suitably violent and felt like two guys just going out there and showing what they can do when the handcuffs are off a little bit. But specifically, one creative beat involving a certain Max Dupri, who famously, at this point, it's been widely reported that he did not see eye to eye with Vince McMahon, leading to him being booted out of his Maximum Male Models faction stable thing like last week. Literally 7 days ago, he was gone. And now, this week, during like the summer collection, SummerSlam pitch where they all like started flexing their asses at the camera, he just suddenly popped up and Michael Cole was like, oh my god. I was like, oh, is he like reacting like that because the internet's going to react like that? I don't know, it's very strange. But he's back. He's now back as Max Dupri, not LA Knight, so sadly he's still like going down this gimmicked route, but he seemed very relaxed, seemed very comfortable to be back amongst his sister Maxine Dupri and Massé Mansois. He was in his element. So this really feels like Triple H straight away going, actually, this guy's quite talented. We're gonna keep him on TV. Like, if he has a few grievances with the material, maybe we can just communicate and work through it. What a crazy world we're living in.
I know, who knew, right? Yeah, I'm glad to see Max Dupri back in this. Like, as much as it was kind of a weird thing that he got handed after doing the LA Knight stuff in NXT and then to become Max Dupri on the main roster. Like, he kind of put his all into it and obviously like got people talking about this Maximum Male Model thing, as ridiculous as it is. Like, people were still talking about it, and that's in large part down to his sort of presentation of it all. And then to just have it all taken away from him like that was really, really harsh. Yeah. So hopefully this is the first in a few steps of Triple H just kind of righting wrongs and fixing things and making it seem like what this is going to be going forwards. It's not going to be a massively fast change, I don't think. We've obviously still got SummerSlam, which is largely booked by Vince McMahon to get out of the way first. And I wouldn't expect huge sweeping changes overnight after that or anything like that, but it's going to start trickling in. We're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see more of, just Triple H's idea of what wrestling should be going forwards. And I, for one, am much more interested in WWE than I have been in a very, very long time. And going back to all that talk that he did at the tryouts as well, I really hope we see more of this going forwards from WWE. He seemed quite like open in that and like honest about things, and it's something like WWE's been so closed off to media and things like that for so long. I kind of hope we see a little bit more of this going forward. It's
part of the reason why NXT had such great engagement from the internet and from just that corner of the wrestling world in general, because he did these media scrums and he really just let the veil down a little bit and went, all right, here's what we're trying to do, here's what we're trying to achieve, this maybe worked, this maybe didn't work, but we're trying to do something, and you feel like you're along for the journey a little bit more. So like you said, if they take a leaf out of like Tony Khan's book and do this more often, not just once every blue moon, I'd be very happy.
Indeed. But let's end the video with your Twitter questions, and continuing on from all this creative talk, we've got one from Mike Nottridge who says, morning lads and happy weekend. With all the changes to the corporate structure of WWE, no doubt eventually hopefully trickling down to the programming soon, name the one improvement each of you would prioritize over everything else.
Ooh, interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily like an improvement per se. I feel like it's something that's already been brought in. It was being brought in before Vince's retirement, but it's the TV14 thing. I hope that leads to more, not excessive violence, but a bit more freedom when it comes to the I don't know, brutality of certain matches that garner it. Do you know what I mean? That need it. It's like Hell in a Cell stuff. If it needs that extra edge or something like that, if the talent is willing to put themselves through it safely as possible, I will add. I'd like to see a bit more of that. A bit more, what's the word? Edge quite likes it. Oh yeah, grit. Bit more grit. That's what I want to see.
There you go. Mine lies solely on creative, but putting more creative in the hands of the wrestlers themselves. I think we've been proven time and time again throughout history that nobody knows the characters better than the people playing those goddamn characters. Like they are themselves. They know that more than anybody else. So putting more creative in the hands of the talent, which includes not only sort of more say over what their promos are, and then maybe slightly less scripted. And I'm not saying unscripted for everyone, because throwing that out there would probably be quite a disaster after what it's been for so long.
We get lots of lucha things, yay.
Yeah. But less impact on their promos and things, more creative input on the things that they say, but also more creative input in the matches themselves and less produced matches, which I think has been an issue from WWE. Like you see, like with Bryan Danielson, somehow still managed to be amazing within that WWE system, but the moment the leash is taken off him, and like he moves over to AEW, it becomes this whole other thing, and like it's just incredible in the ring. And there's so many people in WWE that could show you a lot more than they do, but all the matches are very, very produced. So just lay off a little bit and let the talent that you've hired and paid all this money do what they do best.
And I do think we saw a glimmer of that on SmackDown. I will say it again with that Sheamus McIntyre match. It just felt a bit different. I don't know. Felt a bit like a room to breathe a bit more.
Okay, it's exciting times. The second question comes from Mike Petrosky, who says, I watched both Raw and SmackDown this week for the first time in a bit and was thoroughly entertained. Do I order and watch SummerSlam tonight?
Well, I would, specifically for one reason alone. What is that, Phil?
Well, because you can watch SummerSlam with us. Because me and Michael Hamflett are doing a live stream tonight. It's going to be a very long day for me. But we will be live from the kickoff show at midnight UK time, 7 p.m. Eastern, I assume. We'll be live from the kickoff watching all of SummerSlam, so get SummerSlam, watch it with us.
Yeah, because I can't wait for Johnny Gargano versus Seth Rollins in the main event. It's going to be epic, isn't it, mate? It's going to happen.
Cannot wait. It's not going to happen. I'm going to be very disappointed. The final question of the day comes from Edward Shiraz-Hans, who says, G'day, legend. With AEW hinting that Christian Cage will find another big guy to protect him, who do you think will be his protector? Could it be Lance Archer, Brian Cage, a face? Question mark.
A big face. A big face. That's who it should be.
Just a big face with a blue dot on it.
Pac-Man. That's who it should be. I'd like Brian Cage, who you've already mentioned. I think Brian Cage would be class. Just give him something to do more than anything. I feel like he's just been grossly underutilized over the last year or so, to be honest. Or there's somebody like Jonah, who's not technically been in AEW yet. There's somebody like that you could bring. Maybe Big Damo, W. Morrissey. There's a lot of big people they've had on the AEW product, not necessarily the roster. They just brought them in for a few matches here or there. One of them would be just fine in my eyes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Brian Cage. I don't think you can do any better. He's said time and time again that he isn't exactly happy with his spot within AEW. They're not exactly doing a lot with him, are they? And so he, paired with Christian Cage as well, I just think he'd be a really good pairing. Obviously, Christian Cage has been great for Jungle Boy. The promos that he was cutting on Dynamite this week were absolutely fantastic. He's been under the learning tree of Christian for a while, and doing that with Brian Cage, giving him something else that he can bite his teeth into, and then maybe even eventually down the line turning on Christian and doing a match there, something for Brian Cage. He's really good, but you've done nothing with him for a very long time.
And he's got the reverse Tomko going on, hasn't he? Because he's not got the hair there.
True.
It's there, isn't it? So you just bring it down. Some tattoos. Long-term booking, man.
But that is today's wrestling news. Thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment, etc., etc. Follow us on Twitter as well. That's probably more important.
Yeah.
Follow me at Phil My Chambers, and you can follow Gareth
at GMorgan04.
And you can follow all of us at WhatCulture WWE. Ups and downs for both SmackDown and Rampage will be coming later on today, so keep an eye out for those. And most importantly, have yourselves a bloody good day.
Bye.